Okay, so now the last concept that I'm going to talk about for this particular lab is branching. And branching is an important concept to understand. So I'm going to bring up my command line one more time. And if you remember, we've been talking a little bit about this master branch. And by default, all of the branches, or the main branch, I should say, in a Git repository is typically called master. There's nothing special about that name. You could actually call the main branch anything you wanted. But just to kind of keep to the standard practices, master is typically what's called the main branch. So if you think of a code base, code bases can change. You can pull off of a group of files and change them if you're working on a specific feature or something, and you can pull those branches out or those files out into their own branch. So you make a branch from another branch. If you think about a way a tree grows, you have a trunk that goes up the middle, and you have branches that grow off of those branches, and then even branches that grow off of the branches. So it can branch out, and that's the same concept with this idea of Git. But anyways, the main branch is called master branch. If we were working with SVN or some sort of client server, we would call that the trunk. But for here, we call them a branch. Let me explain what the master branch should represent. Typically, in the real world, in a workplace, the master branch represents the most stable code that is typically produced and sent out to the public. So an example of that would be when you log into Facebook, you are looking at the code base that represents the most current version of the master branch. And I promise you that Facebook literally has thousands of other branches that people are working on new features, but those new features have not been rolled out. So they haven't been committed into or merged into the master branch. And you don't want to do it into the master branch until they've been tested and they've passed the test and they're ready to be released. And this will all tie into the agile stuff that we start to talk about as we start to learn the agile process. But the key point is you typically don't ever want to make commits into the master branch. What you do want to do is merge into the master branch. So what we're going to do is just some simple branching and kind of explain how that goes. So if you pull up your command line and get to where your repository is, again, mine's in that my code tutorial RMH, and I'm in the master branch. We're going to quickly create a branch, and we do that by typing in git branch and then the name of the branch. In this case, we're going to call it neat-feature. And you can call a branch name anything you want. And typically a branch is made up of a feature that you're about to work on. So let's say you got assigned adding a really cool button to a website. You would create a branch of that and call the branch cool button or button for website or something like that. So when I create that branch and do git branch neat feature and press return, the branch was made. Now you don't see anything because I'm still in the master branch, but let me do a command called git branch with no information at the end, with no switch at the end or option. You can see there are two branches that exist now. There's master and neat feature. There's a difference though. If you notice, the master branch is green and it has an asterisk by it. The asterisk says that that's my current branch that's being worked on. The neat feature is what we call a local branch, which means it does not exist out in the repository sitting on Bitbucket or that reference repository. It knows nothing of neat feature, and that's okay. It doesn't have to until I push it up. And I really don't want to push a branch up unless I want to share it with other people. And in this case, we're just not going to. All right, so what I need to do is actually check out that branch. So I'm going to do a git checkout and then put in the name of the branch and press return. Now notice what happens in my command line. This says, hey, you're working in the neat feature branch. So the question is neat feature any different than master right now? And the answer is no, they're not. All I did is take a snapshot of the master branch and create a new branch called neat feature, which has no changes in it yet. Well, let's make a change and then see what happens. So I'm going to open up my text editor, and I'm again going to open up that README markdown file just so we can make some changes in here. So I'm going to come in here and remember that My Notes section where we've added 2 lines. I'm going to do a double return and I'm going to type in 2 pound signs. Remember that's for a heading 2 in Markdown. And I'm going to say branching is great. We like to use branching to segment out work. Make sure you spell right. Segment out work. Okay, I'm going to save that. Okay, so what just happened here? I just changed a file that's in our repository, and I actually changed it only in this branch. So let's watch what happens here. I'm going to leave the text up behind so you can see what happens, and you can also check it in your notepad or whatever you happen to be using. So I'm going to do a get status again to say, hey, where is my current repository sitting? And notice it says, hey, the README file is changed, and it's changed in this neat feature branch. All right, so that's cool. We know how that works. We've got a changed file. We feel good about it, and we're ready to commit it to our code base, to our branch. So I'm going to do git commit, and you remember it's -am for all and message, and I'm going to put in adding info about branching and press return. And there's the commit. I've got a new hash value there, and I'm going to do git status, and it says, hey, everything's up to date on neat feature branch. That's really cool. Now, what happens if I check out the master branch now? Will I see the changes that we just made on the master branch? Well, let's see. We're going to do a git checkout master. And notice it says, oh yeah, you've switched to the master branch. And I'm going to do a git status, and it's going to say, hey, everything's up to date on the master branch. But let's come back here and look. Notice what's missing. That paragraph that we put in about branching is gone. Well, where is it? Well, remember, it's not in the master branch. It's in the neat feature branch only. So the code has been segmented out. So what's really cool then is if you've been assigned a feature that you're not ready to roll out yet, you just make a branch of the master and work and work and work and work, make all your changes. You can build and deploy from that branch and then look at it and test it. You could compile it and see if it compiles right. And then at some point, you're going to get it to a point where it's good and ready to be merged back into the master branch. In other words, you're going to go into the master branch and say, hey, I need to pull this new feature into the master branch because it's ready to be released. So at that point, let's do that. So I'm in the master branch, notice, and that's what you want to do. You're going to merge into your existing branch that you're in. So from here, I can do a git merge, and I'm going to put in this special switch called NoFF, and that just stands for no fast forward. And what that assures me is that it pulls in any history, any detailed history from the branch that I'm pulling from. It's just a good habit to do that. So we're going to do git merge no fast forward, and then the name of the branch that we're going to merge, which in this case is called neat feature. And I'm going to press return. And I forgot to do a message, so I need to get my message in here. Oops, sorry about that. I'm gonna have to redo this. Bummer. Let me try this again. Oh, I need to CD into my code. Sorry about this. Okay, so when I do a git status, we know something's changed here. This says, hey, something's happened to the README file because my git merge took place. So let's come back here and look. Oh, that information's back in there again. So what's happened now is even though I'm on the master branch, it now contains the information from the feature branch because we've taken it and merged it into that master branch. And so now at this point, if I do a git status, it says, hey, this is the change that came in from that other feature. Don't you want to push this up? And we do. So we're going to do a git push. I'm sorry, we need to do a commit first. Git commit -am for all and a message. And then we can, this is typically when you do a merge, you want to say merging neat feature branch to master. Press return, and there's the merge, and git push will push it up to the Bitbucket reference repository. Push your password in. And another git status just to make sure we're up to date and everything's good. Okay, cool. So here's what we did. We just took a branch off of the master branch, made some changes, did our work, and then merged it back into the master branch. And why that workflow is so important is we want the master branch to have integrity. We want it to match what's been rolled out and published. So if you think about it, since we made this merge in, the next step would be then to release this out to the public. So think of it this way. Most of us have iPads or iPhones or any type of cell phone, and about every 2 weeks we get a notice that says, hey, such and such software has an update. Typically what's happened is those people are working in the agile methodology and they have a master branch, and every 2 weeks they do all these features and work, and then they merge it into the master branch, and most of those are tied to some sort of automated build process. And as soon as the master branch changes, there's a build, there's a version numbering that takes place, and then a push out to the public so that a notice is made that says, hey, the change is made. And so that's why we don't ever want to work in the master branch, because we want the automated tools to be able to do their work. And we can do that by pulling branches off and then merging those branches in. And that's what just took place here. So if this was a real project, this would have done is kicked off our build tool, and it would have built the software, compiled or whatever needed to happen, and then pushed that out to whoever is providing it, whether it's the iPhone store, whether it's the Play Store, whether it's the website that got built and pushed out, any of that type of stuff. That's what takes place in these work paths. So that's the important part of branching. You're going to learn a bunch about branching and the general workflow of Git and why it's so useful. And by the time we're done with this class, you will be in the habit of all of these Git tools. You'll be understanding how to do a Git pull, how to do Git commits, how to do Git branching, and how to do Git merging and Git pushes. All those commands will be right at your fingertips and really help us as we start to work collaboratively on this project. So I hope you learned some stuff about Git through this tutorial. Don't forget there is a quiz question and answer that you need to finish up that's on the Moodle site in order to finish this project. And don't forget to do the reading, and I will see you next Monday.